Hey there, listeners. We're about to take a deep dive today, and it's thanks to you. You sent us a bunch of stuff about a show called Off Center, and I gotta say, I've never even heard of it.
Oh, wow.
It looks like it might have been a bit of a hidden gem, or maybe just hidden back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
So was it brilliant or just bizarre?
Yeah, good question.
Let's find out. You sent over this YouTube video essay that seems to break it all down.
It's a really good place to start, actually. What's interesting right off the bat is how off-center ties into something that you've definitely heard of. The American Pie movies.
Whoa, really? Hold on. I need to process this for a second.
Okay.
I'm picturing, like, stiffly busting into a fancy New York apartment.
Not exactly. But there is a deeper connection than just, a shared genre.
Okay.
Think of Off-Center as a slightly older, slightly wilder cousin to American Pie.
Gotcha.
Both tapped into that same vein of early 2000s comedy.
Yeah.
But Off-Center took things a little further, maybe a lot further.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's get into it. So, the YouTube video mentions something about college buddies living in a swanky apartment.
Yeah.
Sounds like, a classic sitcom setup.
Right, but with a twist.
Okay.
The show centers around these two college friends, Yuan and Mike,
Okay.
living the high life in Manhattan, which wouldn't be so funny except their lifestyles are totally mismatched.
Okay.
Yuan's got the high-powered job, basically funding their whole ridiculous lifestyle, while Mike is scraping by at a nonprofit.
The classic odd couple dynamic.
You got it.
So you've got the successful one and the struggling one, bound to create some hilarious friction.
Right.
Kind of like 2.5 Men, but with a New York City edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the show really plays with that contrast.
Yeah.
Yuan's this, smooth-talking British guy,
Right.
always surrounded by beautiful women. Mike, on the other hand, is more awkward and neurotic,
Yeah.
constantly tripping over himself in both his career and his relationship with his girlfriend, Liz.
Right. And then there's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Or maybe the mastodon in the room, given the era we're talking about. The early 2000s were like peak raunchy comedy.
Yes.
And from what I've gathered, Off Center was right in the thick of it.
That's putting it mildly.
Oh, really?
The YouTube video mentions some episodes that even I raised an eyebrow at. And I've seen it all.
Okay.
We're talking an STD scare, a hidden porn collection, swinging parents, even an entire episode centered around circumcision.
Oh, my goodness.
Set in a sauna, no less.
Wow. Okay, they were definitely pushing the envelope, even for a time when shows like Sex and the City were, breaking new ground.
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder, was Off Center just riding the wave of American Pie's success, or were they trying to say something different?
It's probably a bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, American Pie, with its unapologetically frank portrayal of teenage sexuality, had become a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Off-Center, while dealing with slightly older characters, definitely captured that same energy of pushing boundaries and testing the limits of what was acceptable on TV.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is that they didn't just mimic American Pie.
Right.
They took that raunchy humor and applied it to a different setting, a different dynamic,
Yeah.
and maybe even a different audience.
It's like they saw an opening, a chance to explore that same comedic territory,
Right.
but with a bit more edge,
Uh-huh.
maybe even a darker sense of humor.
Yeah, I think so.
And speaking of American Pie, it wasn't just a spiritual connection. They actually brought in a good chunk of the cast.
Oh, absolutely. Off-Center was practically an American Pie reunion.
Really?
Eddie Kaye Thomas, who played Finch, stars as Mike.
Oh, wow.
And John Cho, the infamous MILF guy, #1, plays his roommate, Chow.
And hold on, it gets even better. Jason Biggs and Shannon Elizabeth, who played Jim and Nadia in the American Pie movies, even make guest appearances.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that.
It's like they were trying to create a whole extended universe of awkward, hilarious misadventures.
That's amazing.
And they didn't stop there. Eugene Levy, Jim's dad in American Pie, has a recurring role as, wait for it, Yuan's urologist. You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, my gosh. That's incredible.
Okay, that is amazing. I mean, talk about tapping into a built-in fan base. They brought in some serious star power from a movie that had basically defined a generation's sense of humor.
Yeah.
So we've got a relatable, if somewhat outrageous premise, this wild, raunchy humor, and a direct connection to American Pie.
Right.
On paper, it sounds like Off Center had it all. But the YouTuber mentioned some issues with character development and plot. What went wrong?
That's where things get interesting. The show definitely leaned heavily on shock value and creating outrageous situations, which worked for a while.
Okay.
But as the series progressed, it became clear that the characters weren't evolving alongside the craziness.
Mm.
They stayed pretty one-dimensional, which meant the humor started to feel repetitive and, honestly, a bit hollow.
Yeah, the YouTuber pointed out that even Mike, who starts out as a relatable, somewhat sympathetic character, kind of devolved into just another jerk archetype as the series went on.
Hmm,
And if your main characters aren't growing, where's the audience supposed to go?
exactly. Without that emotional core, that sense that the characters are learning and changing, the humor loses its staying power.
Hmm.
Off-Center had the potential to be more than just a string of outrageous gags. It could have explored themes of friendship, relationships, and the whole messy experience of figuring out adulthood. But instead, it seemed content to go for the easy laugh.
It sounds like a classic case of missed opportunities. But the YouTuber still recommended watching it, right?
Yes.
They even compared it to American Pie in its ability to capture a specific cultural moment.
Right. And that's where we need to dig a little deeper.
Hmm.
Because Off-Center, like American Pie, didn't exist in a vacuum. It was a product of its time. A time when that kind of raunchy, boundary-pushing humor was not only accepted, but celebrated. Think about it. This was the era of Jackass, Family Guy, even the early seasons of South Park. Audiences were craving something different, something that challenged the norms and made them laugh in a way that felt, well, a little bit dangerous.
So Off-Center was tapping into this cultural shift, this desire for comedy that wasn't afraid to be bold, maybe even a little bit offensive.
Right.
But looking back now, it's hard to ignore the fact that a lot of that early 2000s humor hasn't aged all that well.
Yeah, that's the thing about humor. It's
Yeah.
constantly evolving.
Right.
What might have been considered edgy or hilarious 20 years ago can feel cringeworthy or even harmful today. And Off-Center, for all its attempts to push boundaries, definitely fell into some of the traps of its time.
You're talking about the stereotypes, right? The YouTuber specifically mentioned the female characters feeling a bit one-dimensional.
Exactly. Liz, Mike's girlfriend, is the classic, voice of reason character,
Yep.
always there to point out how ridiculous Mike is being, but without much depth beyond that. And the other female characters often fall into familiar tropes, the hot girl, the uptight boss, the ditzy party girl. It's a shame because with a bit more development, they could have been so much more interesting and relatable.
It's like they had all the ingredients for a truly groundbreaking show, but they got a little too caught up in the shock value and forgot to give those characters real heart. Which makes me wonder, could a show like Off-Center even work today?
It's a great question and honestly a tough one to answer.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we're living in a much more sensitive and aware time.
Right.
Audiences are calling out harmful stereotypes, demanding more nuanced representation, and pushing for comedy that doesn't punch down.
So you're saying that some of those Off-Center jokes wouldn't fly in today's climate?
Some of them would definitely raise eyebrows, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't think pushing boundaries is inherently bad. In fact, I think it's essential for comedy to evolve and stay relevant. The key is to do it with intelligence and empathy, to be aware of the potential impact of those jokes, and to make sure you're not reinforcing harmful stereotypes.
So it's not about shying away from difficult or controversial topics, but about approaching them with more nuance and self-awareness.
Exactly. And that's where a show like Off-Center, for all its flaws, actually offers some interesting food for thought.
Okay.
Because buried beneath all the raunchiness, there are glimpses of something more complex, something that hints at the show's potential to be more than just a shock fest.
You're talking about that rapper character, Status Quo, right? The YouTuber mentioned him as a surprisingly well-developed character, almost a deconstruction of the typical rapper stereotype.
Right. He's this larger-than-life figure, dripping with bling and bravado. But underneath all that, he's actually a sensitive, cultured guy who just happens to love hip-hop. He challenges those assumptions we make about people based on their outward appearance, and that's something that feels even more relevant today.
It's like they stumbled onto something really interesting with that character, but they didn't quite know what to do with it. Which brings us back to the question of a reboot. Could Off-Center be reimagined for a modern audience, keeping that edgy humor but giving it a more thoughtful, nuanced approach?
I think it would be a fascinating experiment. Imagine a rebooted Off-Center with a more diverse cast, exploring the same themes of friendship and adulthood, but through a lens that reflects the complexities of our current world.
Okay, I'm already hooked. How would you approach it?
Well, first off, you'd need writers who understand the nuances of comedy in today's climate. Writers who can push boundaries without being offensive, who can find humor in unexpected places, and who can create characters that are both funny and relatable.
And the casting would be crucial. You'd need actors who can bring depth and complexity to those roles, who can make us laugh and make us think at the same time.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't want to completely erase the original show's DNA. That raunchy, in-your-face energy was part of its charm. It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between pushing the envelope and being respectful, between going for the easy laugh and digging a little deeper.
It sounds like a tightrope walk, but one that could be really rewarding if done right.
Exactly. And imagine the possibilities. You could explore the same core dynamics, the mismatched roommates, the awkward romantic entanglements, but through a modern lens that reflects the challenges and anxieties of young adults today. You could tackle issues of social media, the gig economy, the pressure to succeed in a constantly changing world.
And those themes of friendship and loyalty, of navigating the ups and downs of life with your chosen family, those are timeless and universal. You could even weave in elements of social commentary, addressing issues like mental health, inclusivity, and the evolving nature of relationships. It could be a show that's both hilarious and thought-provoking, something that speaks to a new generation while still honoring the spirit of the original. No, I don't want to get too carried away here. We are talking about a show that revolved around a hidden porn collection and a circumcision-themed sauna episode.
Right. Let's not forget those memorable plot points.
Yeah.
But even those elements, as outrageous as they might seem today, could be reimagined in a way that's both funny and relevant.
Okay.
Think about it. The hidden porn collection could become a commentary on the oversaturation of online content, the pressure to consume and create constantly. And the sauna episode. Well, maybe that one's best left in the vault.
Maybe some things are better left in the past, but you've got me thinking. A reboot could be a chance to not only update the humor, but also to right some of the wrongs of the original.
Right.
Give those female characters more agency, more depth, more stories that go beyond just being the girlfriend or the hot girl.
Absolutely. And it's not just about gender representation either. A rebooted Off-Center could showcase a more diverse cast of characters reflecting the realities of modern city life.
Right.
Different ethnicities, different sexual orientations, different socioeconomic backgrounds. It could be a true reflection of the melting pot that New York City is.
And imagine the comedic potential. You could explore the clashes and connections between those different cultures, the misunderstandings, and the moments of shared humanity. It could be a show that's both funny and insightful, something that makes us laugh while also challenging our perspectives.
Exactly. And it could even go beyond the traditional sitcom format. Maybe it's a dramedy, blending those laugh-out-loud moments with more introspective scenes that explore the characters' inner lives. Maybe it's a mockumentary, playing with the conventions of reality TV and offering a satirical take on modern life. The possibilities are endless.
Wow, you've really painted a picture here. I'm starting to think a rebooted Off-Center could be something truly special. But let's be real for a second. The chances of this actually happening are, well, slim, to say the least.
Yeah, probably true. But even if Off-Center remains a relic of the early 2000s, a time capsule of a very specific comedic sensibility, it's still a valuable reminder of how far we've come and how far we still have to go.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the power of humor to both reflect and shape our culture, and a challenge to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in comedy.
It's also a reminder that even shows that haven't aged perfectly can still spark important conversations and offer valuable insights. Who knew we'd end up dissecting a forgotten sitcom and envisioning its future?
That's the beauty of a deep dive. It's about taking those seemingly insignificant pieces of pop culture and uncovering the layers of meaning, the historical context, and the potential for something new and exciting.
So, to our listener who sent in this request, we hope you enjoyed this trip back to the early 2000s. Maybe you'll even be inspired to check out Off-Center for yourself just for the nostalgia factor, or maybe to see if it holds up better than we remember. And who knows? Maybe someday our reboot dreams will become a reality. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.